What's up, everybody? Go Burns, sitting in my captain's chair, giving you my review of the series premiere of Star Trek Discovery. And we're going to go over both episodes. I'm going to lump them together, and I'm going to do spoiler-free. And then probably the last half of the video, we'll do spoilers for all of you guys wondering. And I'm very new to doing reviews over here on my other channel, which I call Go Burns VNR, which stands for Vlogs and Reviews. Originally, I focused on vlogs, but I'm starting to add more stuff to this channel that's non-gaming content, like TV reviews as well as movie reviews. And I posted my first official movie review earlier regarding It Chapter 1, in case you guys want to go check that out. So I am a huge Star Trek fan. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, Lord of the Rings fan, Transformers fan. I love a lot of these different shows and genres and comic book characters, sci-fi. So the list goes on and on about things I like. There's also things I don't like, but anyways, I was very excited to find out a while back that we were finally, after a long wait, getting a new Star Trek series, because the last series was Star Trek Enterprise, and that went off the air somewhere in the 2000s. And overall, I liked it, but the irony is it got really good in the fourth season, and it started to feel like Star Trek, and then they canceled it, which was really sad. So I was very optimistic about Star Trek Discovery. I mean, there were some issues, some concerns I had whenever I started seeing some of the artwork, the photos, some of the interviews, but I was still willing to give it a chance, and I'm glad I did, because I absolutely enjoyed the first two episodes of Star Trek Discovery. And to give you guys a premise about where Star Trek Discovery is set, it is in the original Star Trek timeline. It has nothing to do with the Kelvin verse, as they call it, you know, the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies. I like them as well, but I prefer the original timeline. Star Trek Discovery is set 10 years prior to the events of the original series, you know, with Kirk and Bones, Spock, the rest of the crew of the original Enterprise. So yes, 10 years prior to those events in the 23rd century. And it's interesting the way they're doing the series. They're going from like basically, well, the first two episodes was 2 points of view. First off, the point of view of the main character, who is played by Sonequa Martin Green. Now, you may know her from The Walking Dead. Yes, she is the main actress in this series. She plays Commander Michael Burnham. Yes, I know, Michael's a guy's name. But, you know, this is the 23rd century. Maybe by the 23rd century, you know, Michael's a popular girl name. I don't know why they chose to go with that name. We're just going to roll with it. Her name is Commander Michael Burnham. Now, her parents were killed, and her ward becomes Sarek, who is performed by James Frain. And I love James Frain. He's a great actor from Orphan Black, as well as Gotham, other stuff as well. And Sarek sounds familiar because in the Star Trek universe, he is also Spock's father and ambassador of Vulcan. And so he becomes Michael Burnham's ward from a very early age. So she grows up on Vulcan, and even though she's human, you know, she kind of has a Vulcan thing going on because, you know, she was surrounded by Vulcan culture, the Vulcan beliefs, you know, how they hold back emotion, how they put logic first. So it was interesting to see that, you know, point of view of Michael Burnham. We'll call her Burnham. We'll just keep her. That's what we're going to do, Commander Burnham. But it's set 7 years after she's been, you know, put aboard this ship, the USS Sinjo, which is commanded by actually Michelle Yeoh, former Bond girl, also best known from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And she's a fantastic actress, and she plays the captain of the USS Sinjo. Or Sinju, or if I mispronounce that, I apologize. Won't be the first or last time I mispronounce something. I'm only human as far as I know. But anyways, she's a fantastic captain, and they have kind of this mother-daughter thing. They've been serving together for 7 years, and Burnham is her first officer, a.k.a. number one, kind of like a callback to, you know, Riker, you know, from TNG, as well as, you know, number one from, you know, the original series as well, you know, before Kirk and Spock. Well, Spock was around, but anyways, you probably know what I'm talking about from the original series. So other characters, the science officer is a alien known as Saru, I think that's his name. He's performed by Doug Jones, and he was in Hellboy 1 and 2. Another fantastic actor added to the cast. I love Saru. He is a science officer. He's all about science. He's not exactly brave. He's a very cautious species. And then you have Jason Isaacs, who's going to play the captain of the USS Discovery. Now, this is an interesting thing about the TV show, is it's a very slow burn, because we have yet to get to Discovery after 2 episodes. I know that's a spoiler, kind of, sort of, but we're still aboard the USS Sinjo in episodes 1 and 2. So that's one thing I like. I like the fact that the writers are not trying to rush from point A to point B. They're trying to flesh out these characters, give us some time with Burnham, as well as Michelle Yeoh's character. Once again, she's the captain of the Sinjo. And see what her life has been like aboard this one ship prior to her eventually becoming an officer or member of the crew of the USS Discovery. So what happens is there's another point of view, not just her point of view, but also that of the Klingons. And the Klingons, this one house is led by a character called T'Kuvma. I think that's how you pronounce it. And he believes that he is the embodiment of Kahless, the Klingon Messiah brought back. And I'll say this about the Klingons right now. I like almost everything about the Klingons in Discovery except for one thing, and most of you Trekkie fans probably already know what I'm going to say. I think they got everything else right. Their culture, their customs, the symbols, the houses of the Klingon Empire. But I'm still not feeling the new look of the Klingons going into 2 episodes. Everything else is fine. The Klingon language, which is a real language now, it's been one for quite a while. People actually are very fluent in Klingon. I'm not. I know a few words like kapla. That's probably about it, when it comes to my Klingonese. But I do like that. I enjoy the fact that they've carried all that over from the lore of the Star Trek series. But I don't think that changing their look was necessary. I mean, yes, in the original series, they didn't really look that much different than humans. It wasn't until, Star Trek the Motion Picture that we got the first bona fide look of, what the Klingons look like, going forward, from, the Motion Picture to Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise. So I liked that look that they set up for the Klingons. I didn't see the point in them changing it. Not at all. But for some reason, they decided to revamp the Klingons' look. And I don't know, it may eventually grow on me, but I don't think it will. I just think that that's one thing they seriously could have kept the same, and most people would have probably not had any issue at all with it. But everything else about the Klingons, pretty much the way it's always been. So in order to reunite the houses under one empire, T'Kuvma decides to start a war with the Federation. And that's what the first 2 episodes about. Him trying to unite these houses together and, say, hey, we're going to bring forth, Klingon greatness again and keep the Federation out because they see the Federation as invaders. And the idea of peace is, something that is blasphemous to the Klingons. They're a warrior race and they wish to remain Klingon. And so, his goal is to unite the Klingons together because I guess they've been fighting for quite some time and he wants to reunify the Klingon Empire. I think it does exist, but it's just not unified. But anyway, so conflict does break out, obviously, between the Klingons and the Federation. And so that's what Discovery is going to revolve around, the war between the Klingons and the Federation 10 years prior to the events of the original series. So I really enjoyed episodes 1 and 2. I thought they were fantastic, well done. In fact, the budget is crazy. $8 to $8.5 million an episode is what they're spending on this series. And there's going to be, I think, 15 episodes, which equates to roughly 20 some odd $1 million that, is going into this new series for Star Trek. So, yeah, I mean, I like the writing so far. I like the look of the show. I like the fact that it's set in the original series, not the Kelvin series or verse or whatever you want to call it. Obviously, I don't like the Klingons. I mean, I do like the Klingons, but I just don't like the new look of the Klingons. But unfortunately, that's just something that isn't going to change. I think they're going to stick with it for better or worse. Now, let's talk about the paywall before we go on to spoilers. By the way, I do think that the series is worth watching for Star Trek fans. Now, some Star Trek fans may not enjoy it. You know, everyone has their own opinion. This is my opinion as a longtime Trekkie, because I've watched all the series. I have them all on DVD. I have all the movies on DVD, even the bad ones. But overall, I thought the first 2 episodes were a pretty solid start for Star Trek Discovery. And there have been, you know, starts for other series like Star Trek The Next Generation, which was kind of shaky. The first season was kind of touch and go. It didn't really pick up steam till probably sometime during the 2nd or 3rd season. And, you know, Star Trek Next Generation is held up on a high pedestal. So I really do think that 2 episodes going in to Star Trek Discovery, they're off to a very promising start. And it's going to be interesting to see Jason Isaacs' character, Gabriel Lucca, the captain of the USS Discovery. I think we'll get introduced to him as well as the Discovery in episodes 3 of Star Trek Discovery. Now, the issue that I do have with Star Trek Discovery is probably the same issue that a lot of others have. You know, they did premiere the very first episode on CBS, which made sense. But then they decided, for whatever rhyme or reason, and this is a decision they made a while back, to put the rest of the series behind the paywall of CBS All Access. Now, you can either do $6 a month, which will give you limited commercials every time a new episode comes out. By the way, it doesn't work the way Netflix does. So you're not going to be able to go and binge watch the entire season of Star Trek Discovery, unlike season 2 of Stranger Things coming out in October. It's going to be on a weekly basis. So episode 3 will premiere, I guess, this coming Sunday, I think 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern, I believe. So once it pops, then you can go watch it. Then a week later, you watch the next episode, just like standard TV. But if you don't want any commercials, you can pay, I think, $9 a month for commercial free, which I think is, you know, an even worse deal, because I'm willing to endure like a minute or 2 of commercials and save a few bucks. And there's also a free 1-week trial with the $6 per month. So you sign up, you have to give your credit card or bank card, and then you get a free week trial. And if you don't like the first 2 episodes, then you can just cancel it and you don't pay anything. Or, you know, you could also wait until all the episodes are up on CBS All Access and then just watch it that way. You know, sign up then for the week trial, and then during that week, then binge watch all 15 episodes of Star Trek Discovery, and then, you know, cancel it before you pay a dime. But I just think this is a bad move by CBS because, A, they obviously spent a lot of money on this season of Star Trek Discovery, over $120 million. And I think this could actually be a decent show on the network. I mean, they have some okay shows. I'm not, you know, I guess a hardcore network fan. I do watch a few shows out there, not as much as I used to. Mostly it's just me watching YouTube videos, live streams, or Netflix. But from the production value, from the writing, from the characters, and the 2 episodes, I feel like that this could easily be a popular show on CBS. And I think it's a disservice to not only, you know, the Star Trek fans out there that would rather this be on CBS without having to pay an additional $6 to $9 a month, depending on which service you go with from All Access. But I think it would be good for bringing in potential new Star Trek fans as well. So I do think it's a mistake on CBS's part to put Star Trek Discovery behind this paywall. Now, I think it's only the US and the UK they're behind a paywall. I think the rest of the world are going to get to watch Star Trek Discovery on Netflix. Now, that would have made more sense if they would have just partnered up with Netflix and put it on there, because I already have a Netflix subscription, and that's not just for one show. That's for numerous shows like Stranger Things, like Longmire, and all the Marvel shows that I watch, like Daredevil, Luke Cage, and of course The Punisher coming up in November, and all the other content as well that is on Netflix. It would have made more sense to have put it on an existing popular stream service and partner up with them than to try and go it alone, because like Fox has their own stream service app, just like CW does and a few others, but I don't have to pay for the Fox app. In order to go back the next day and watch a new episode of Gotham, I don't have to pay anything for that. I just have to sit through commercials, and I don't have a problem sitting through a commercial in order to catch up on the first episode of season 4 of Gotham last week. That's way more palatable than having to pay $6 or $9 a month just for one show. And that's basically what we're going to have to do in order to watch Star Trek Discovery. So if it was specifically just on the network, I would say, yeah, watch it, because I think it's a good show. I think it has a lot of promise, a lot of potential, and I want to see which way it's going to go. I like the fact that the writers are taking their time, not trying to rush the characters, or trying to flesh out all the characters like Burnham, like Saru, and eventually when we get to Captain Lorca of the USS Discovery and the crew of the Discovery, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, along with the Klingon arc as well. But at the same time, I don't think it's worth getting the paywall. I think that's going to turn off a lot of Star Trek fans. Now, some people will do it because they're hardcore Star Trek fans, or they really liked the first episode of Star Trek Discovery and they liked episode 2, just like I did. I thought episode 2 was actually even better than episode 1, and I thought episode 1 wasn't bad. So I'm looking forward to episode 3, and it's unfortunate that, you know, in order to watch episode 3, we're going to have to pay $6 a month, you know, for limited commercials, as opposed to $9 a month for no commercials. But I think that of the two is the quote unquote better deal. But like I said, I mean, if you want to be patient, if you just want to wait, that's what I would do. I would simply just wait till all the episodes of Star Trek Discovery are, you know, on CBS All Access, then just sign up for the week free trial. Then just binge watch all 15 episodes, then cancel it, because I think it's ridiculous what CBS is doing. I know they spend a lot of money on this series, but I think they could easily make that money by just simply having it on the network, as opposed to putting it behind the all-access streaming service paywall. Okay, so now that we got the non-spoiler part out of the way regarding Star Trek Discovery, let's dive in a little bit more to some of my thoughts regarding the first 2 episodes. And by the way, let me know below in the comment section, what did you think about the first 2 episodes of Star Trek Discovery? Try and keep that spoiler free. Just, you know, let others, you know, that are viewing the channel and the video know what you think about it. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Why did you like it? Why did you hate it? Why do you think this might be a pretty decent Star Trek series? Or why do you think it should be avoided by Star Trek fans? I personally had some issues. I mean, for one thing, I kind of wish they would have gone a little bit further back in time with Discovery than simply just 10 years prior to the events of the original series. I would have really much rather wanted, say, maybe the 22nd century, where there's the Federation Romulan War that's talked about during the original series. That would have been kind of cool. And whenever I heard that this was going to be set between, you know, like Star Trek Enterprise and Star Trek, the original series, I was kind of hoping it would be in the 22nd century. And we would see how the Federation's been doing the first few decades of its existence. You know, the issues that they had, the bumps in the road, you know, bringing new races under the Federation banner, and dealing with the Romulans, you know, in the first war that broke out between the Romulans and the Federation in the 22nd century. That would have been cool. But we didn't get that. We're once again getting the Klingons, the revamped version of the Klingons. And like I said, I do not like the new look of the Klingons. I am trying to be open with it. I like everything else about the Klingons. Well, the armor I don't like as much either. It doesn't feel very practical. The setting's okay. You know, like the set of the ship, you know, that's okay. I mean, I can live with that. But I just don't know why they had to go through such efforts to revamp the look of the Klingons, especially since they look kind of like Remans from Star Trek Nemesis. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, are these Klingons or are these Remans? You know, but anyways, that was the only real issue, like I said, I had with the Klingons. And regarding Michelle Yeoh's character, I am surprised what they did. I mean, I know we live in the age of Game of Thrones where, popular characters are not safe from being killed off by a red wedding or poisoning or being blown up in a church. But Michelle Yeoh, I liked her character. I liked that captain. I liked the chemistry that she has with Burnham. And I kind of wish that would have continued. I mean, even if, you had Sonequa's character move on to the Discovery, but you still had Michelle Yeoh's character out there captaining the USS Sinjo. But, spoiler alert, the battle doesn't exactly go so well for the Federation. Several more ships do show up, and, a lot of Klingons get killed, a lot of Federation gets killed, a lot of ships get blasted up out of the stars. Nice battle. It could have been a better battle scene, I think. But in the end, Michelle Yeoh's character dies. She gets killed in battle, trying to capture T'Kuvma. So they come up with a plan to capture T'Kuvma in order to, try and avert the war. I guess kind of like pull the rug out from the Klingons, because if they turn T'Kuvma into a martyr, then, the Klingons would just say he died an honorable death in the name of Kahless, and they would continue fighting the Federation. But if they captured him, it would be kind of an embarrassment for the Klingon Empire. But the attempt to capture him fails, and in the process, Michelle Yeoh's character gets killed. She gets a bat'leth right to her chest. And, so that was a mistake because, Burnham's character, she was supposed to stun T'Kuvma, but instead she chooses to kill him. But it was her plan to capture him. And another mistake that Burnham makes is earlier on, and it's in episode 1, where she becomes convinced by Sarek, because they were communicating during this whole issue regarding the Klingons, before more of the Klingon fleet shows up and the Federation fleet shows up, that the only way to deal with the Klingons is to shoot first and ask questions later, which does make sense from the Vulcan point of view. But she decides to try and first convince her captain that we have to shoot at the Klingons. We have to attack the Klingons now because they're going to attack us. And obviously, because Michelle Yeoh's character is a Federation captain, they're not going to shoot first. That's not the way the Federation is unless they're already at war. But in this point in the TV series, they're still at peace, right at the border of Federation space. And the direction that they go with, Burnham was kind of questionable. For one thing, instead of simply having a disagreement in the ready room, and then she decides, she's my captain. I disagree with my captain, but as her first officer, I have to go along with it for better or worse. Burnham decides to pull a Vulcan neck pinch on her captain. And it's not a very good neck pinch, because within a few minutes, the captain's coming out of the ready room with her phaser. And so, I guess Sarek should have done a better job teaching Michael how to do the Vulcan neck pinch. Anyways, so that didn't go so well. That seemed like a pretty stupid decision by Burnham, especially spending, her entire life on Vulcan, learning the Vulcan ways, being educated by Vulcans, including Sarek. You think, the reality that, her captain is her boss, is her superior officer, and what she says goes, even if she disagrees it. So it was obviously an emotional decision made by Burnham, who's obviously human, but she struggles with being human as well as, her Vulcan upbringing. And she has a reason to hate the Klingons because of the fact that her family was massacred in a Klingon raid. So while there hasn't been a war between the Klingon and the Federation, the Klingons do occasionally attack like outposts. So her family was stationed at an outpost, and the Klingons attacked it. One of the Klingon houses attacked, killed almost everybody, and Burnham was very young at the time, and she was rescued by Sarek and raised by Sarek as her ward, even though Spock never mentioned anything about her. Or, to be fair, he didn't mention anything about his brother either until, the Final Frontier, so Spock doesn't like to get too personal. But that was another issue. Like, of all the Vulcans, why did they have to use one that already exists in Star Trek? Why did they have to use Sarek? Why couldn't they just used a completely different, Vulcan? Because he's not the only Vulcan on Vulcan. I mean, I realize he has more ties to humanity because his son, Spock, is half human, half Vulcan. He's married to a human female. I get that, but at the same time, Sarek's not the only Vulcan. So they could have had another Vulcan as Burnham's ward. And I think that would have been a lot better. I mean, I have no problem with James Frain. I think he's a great actor. And I think they could have simply cast him as a completely different Vulcan. Give him a completely different name. And you say, okay, well, he's the equivalent of Sarek in Star Trek Discovery. No, he is Sarek in Star Trek Discovery. But, that was the other issue I kind of had of it, along with some of the bad decisions that Burnham made. She made two very bad choices. One, mutiny against her captain, and then B, killing T'Kuvma instead of capturing him. Even though he just killed her captain, she still could have, made her death not be in vain by grabbing him, stunning him, capturing him, taking him back to the ship, and then holding him. But anyways, so I did like the fact, like I mentioned, that there are not rushing through this. The writers, the production team, they're taking their time with each episode. I like that because in the past, she would already be aboard the Star Trek Discovery by the end of the first episode. That's not the case with this series. And it looks like she's not going to be officially aboard the Discovery until episode 3, when we will once again be introduced to Captain Lorca, played by Jason Isaacs of the USS Discovery. So I do like the fact that they're taking their time. They're pacing it, fleshing out the characters, the story, the arc. So that's definitely, I think, a potential strength of Star Trek Discovery, and that's something I'm very much looking forward to. It's just that, there have been some mistakes that were made that I didn't agree with, that you think that, someone like Burnham, raised on Vulcan, who's also the first officer, wouldn't have made. But at the same time, I have to say this, unlike other Star Trek series where, one of the officers does something potentially treacherous or mutinous, and the worst thing that happens to them, they end up in Janeway's ready room and she has a stern talking to them while she's drinking coffee. And she's like, you did this, you did that. But she comes up with some excuse not to punish him. I know that wasn't always the case. There were times when she did. I think she did demote Paris once for something he did. But the point is, most of the time, it ended in a slap in the wrist, just with a stern talking to and, reading the riot act by the captain. There are consequences because, she does get in trouble with the Federation. She does get found guilty on all these charges. And she's basically blamed for starting the war between the Klingons and the Federation. And so she's sentenced to life in prison. Now, how does she go from being sentenced to life in prison to ending up on the Star Trek Discovery is what we're going to have to find out in episode 3. But anyways, those are my views, my opinions regarding Star Trek Discovery. Overall, I really enjoyed the first 2 episodes. I think it has a lot of potential, but I think the one thing that's going to seriously hurt it is obviously the CBS All Access paywall that they have put up. And like I said earlier, I think that they should have just made this a network show. I don't know why they didn't. I guess they assumed they're going to do better with it being, the flagship show of their All Access stream network in order to compete with Netflix, which has a whole bunch of different unique shows that are only available on Netflix. I just don't know if it's worth paying $6 a month or $9 a month for just one show. I mean, along with all the other CBS shows that are on there. I mean, if you're a CBS fan and you love all those shows, and this is just one more show that you're going to love watching on CBS, I guess it's worth it. But the truth is, I don't watch any of the other shows on CBS. So the only reason why I got the membership for $6 a month is because I am a Trekkie, and I want to see how it plays out. And I'm sure there's other Star Trek fans that feel the same way I do, so they're willing to drop $6 a month for the rest of the first season to see how it goes, for better or worse. But at the same time, I really hope that it actually is worth $6 a month. I hope that all the episodes are phenomenal. I mean, it's 15 episodes, so there may be a few that are kind of iffy. But then again, maybe not. I guess we're just going to have to find out one way or the other. And if you guys wish me to continue reviewing Star Trek Discovery episode by episode going forward, episode 3 through episode 15, feel free and let me know below in the comments section.